So I ordered another eBay game console, and honestly, I love making these videos because you never know what you're going to get on eBay in terms of the quality of the product. Now in today's video, I am taking a look at a used Nintendo Switch, and this Nintendo Switch is indeed the regular Nintendo Switch and not the Switch Lite. Now, this listing did say it was supposed to come with the Switch, with the Joy-Cons, with a carrying case, but not with a charger and not with the dock. Now, I already have a regular Nintendo Switch, so I already have a lot of accessories and a lot of games for the Switch, so it's not really a big deal if it doesn't come with much, but I'm curious to see what they shipped with this Nintendo Switch. Now, for this Switch, I did pay $220 for this Switch. Now, I did open the box already. I didn't really look around, but I did kind of cut it open, so at least it'd be easier on camera for me to see what I'm looking at. So let's go ahead and see what we're dealing with when it comes to this Switch. It looks like they have one of those Switch cases that was actually a launch Switch case, because I remember this case actually being a case that was released with the Switch when the Switch was first being released on like launch day. I've seen these cases. This case is actually a pretty good case, and it's pretty sturdy to boot, so I'm fairly happy with this case. I actually own this case, believe it or not, so this is like a second time I have this case. Let's go ahead and open the Switch and see what we're actually dealing with. Okay, so it looks like we're dealing with the standard regular Switch. We did get the regular Switch. We also got gray Joy-Cons, which isn't really a shock because in the picture they did show gray Joy-Cons. And there's the unit itself, and that's pretty much all the listing said I was supposed to get. So in terms of what I'm getting, the listing was pretty much spot on. I did get that. And the Switch, from what I'm seeing, looks pretty clean, honestly. I don't really see any damage or any bad things about this Switch so far. I want to check if this has a screen protector on it. It's hard to tell if this unit has a screen protector on it, and if it does, it was put on very good. It definitely looks like it's not one of those glass screen protectors, because those ones are pretty obvious when you see them on Switches. So no, it's hard to tell if there's a screen protector or not a screen protector on this Switch. Let me go ahead and flip it around the back to check if there's any damages. It looks like there are some tiny scratches, but that's to be expected. Maybe a kid used it, or maybe they just took it in and out of the dock, because with my regular Switch, as long as I've owned it, I practically own that Switch since launch day, and I can tell you my back is pretty much beat up, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see this back beat up, especially if they took it in and out of the dock. And I do know, even if you're super careful with using the Switch, when you take it in and out of the dock, you can still easily damage the Switch. It's just the dock wasn't really designed all that well. But yeah, you can see there's some fingerprints as well when I move the Switch around in certain light. It looks like also the kickstand is on there. Let me check if the Switch has a micro SD card. No, from what I'm seeing, the Switch didn't come with an SD card. I thought maybe they may have forgot and things like that. And let me go ahead and check also the game card slot and see the game card slot if there's a free game by mistake. Nope. It did say in the listing I wasn't supposed to get a memory card or a game, which is, again, totally fine. I have those laying around and things like that, so I'm good to go. But yeah, no game in the game card slot as well. And not sure if the Joy-Cons have drift. In the actual listing for this Switch, it didn't say if the Joy-Cons had any drift or what. I'm assuming at this point they probably have drift, to be honest, just looking at this Switch. If it does have drift, again, that's totally okay. You can somehow maybe fix the drift, send them into Nintendo, or like I said before, I have plenty of controllers and accessories for the Switch, so this is not my first time owning a Switch, so not a big deal if it has drift. And besides that, even if it didn't have drift, most likely months or years down the road it would get drift anyway, so it's kind of like whatever. You just know when you get a Switch you're going to get drift to begin with. But yeah, there's a Switch. Now all we really have to do is see if this thing actually powers up, and I'm curious to see how the battery life of this thing is, because of course people play their Switch a lot, and who knows. And if this is a launch Switch, then it could easily have a bad battery, but batteries can be changed. They're not really removable. You do have to open the switch up, but you can do that. Let's see if we can actually boot this switch up for the very first time. Okay, I'm pressing the button on the top, and yeah, it's not powering on. It did say in the listing this switch was supposed to be a good working switch, just without the dock and the charger as well. So it's kind of concerning that this switch is not coming on. Yes, I'm pressing the button on the top, I'm holding it down, and this switch is just not wanting to juice up. It could be A, it's busted, which of course people do lie. It could be busted. Maybe in shipping somehow it broke, or what could have happened is maybe the battery just died. So let's hope for the best and hope the battery just died. Unfortunately, I don't really have a way to charge this at the very moment, so I'm probably going to have to do an update for this video to see if this thing works and things like that. So that's probably what I'm going to do in the near future, or maybe cut to another segment where I actually try to see if this switch is working and things like that. So I'll be right back. So I'm back with the switch. I've had this switch now for about a week. It's been a week later, and what I can tell you, luckily enough, this switch does work. It also works in the dock as well. Pretty much everything works with the dock. I actually managed to move a lot of my games and everything over to this switch to test it. There is two big problems with this switch, which I will talk about now as soon as I boot this switch up. One is the fact that unfortunately the Joy-Cons do have drift, so that's pretty much unfortunate. I haven't really tested a game out because I only own one game on Switch and the rest are digital. So the only problem is I will actually have to get a game and see if a game actually works on this Switch, which I do have a game in there right now, which I did find, and I will test it out on camera. I do have Animal Crossing New Horizons, so there's Animal Crossing New Horizons. This is my copy I have, so I'm going to put it in there and test the game card slot. It does read the game, it looks like, and like I said before, I transferred over everything from another Switch over to this Switch to use this Switch. So again, one of the problems here is the Joy-Cons do have drift, which is unfortunate, but it's not a big deal. I did notice for some reason with this Switch in particular, the Joy-Con drifting issue only comes and goes, so it's not permanent. Sometimes it'll happen, sometimes it won't happen. It's pretty much all over the place when it actually comes to the drift of the actual system. And then another problem I'm actually encountering is it looks like this unit does have a bad battery, unfortunately. I don't know if the person who had this system last just played this a very long time or whatnot, but the battery doesn't really last all that long. It'll last about an hour and then pretty much the battery will just die. So yes, the battery in this unit definitely needs an upgrade for sure, or at least a changing for sure, because if you want to play it in handheld mode, it's not really possible. But yeah, here's all my games. Everything boots up. All the games work fine. All the controls work fine, minus the drifting Joy-Con issue. Let's go ahead and boot into Animal Crossing New Horizons to see if Animal Crossing New Horizons actually boots up. I put all my profiles on there and everything, just to see also if everything would actually transfer over, because I never actually did a transfer over from another Switch to another Switch. Okay, so it looks like it is actually reading the games, and the game card slot is actually functional, which is nice. I wouldn't even care, honestly, if the game card slot was actually busted, believe it or not, just because I'm an all-digital person. But I mean, for resale purposes or just to have a nice working Switch, it is nice that the game card slot actually does work. That is nice. Now, granted, keep in mind, Animal Crossing was always a game that had bad loading times with at least the physical version. So yes, it's going to take a while to boot this game up. I'm going to walk around and things like that, just check it out and see if it works. And then I'm going to call this Switch pretty much good, except for the bad battery and the drifting Joy-Cons. Just making sure the sound is turned down on this unit. But yeah, I really just wanted a second Switch to just mess around with and play with and things like that. I know the Nintendo Switch OLED version is coming out, but again, I'm not really a person that plays in handheld mode all that often. I mostly play on the TV. As well as that, this screen size doesn't bother me. I just want to see if you can get good deals on eBay, excuse me. And for $220, I guess the Switch isn't all too bad, but considering it has a bad battery and drifting Joy-Cons. That's kind of a problem for some people, especially if you don't have other controllers laying around. You would have to potentially buy another controller unless you want to send these into Nintendo and maybe pay a fee to try to get these fixed and things like that. But yeah, you can see it is reading the game perfectly. Can't tell if this Switch has any scratches on the screen or whatnot, but it's in pretty good condition. I wouldn't say it's flawless just because the back of it's kind of beat up, but if they removed it in and out of the dock, that's to be expected. But yeah, there's my Animal Crossing village and things like that, and you can see it does work pretty nice, and honestly, I'm actually pretty happy with the deal. $220 is not too bad, considering you don't get a dock, and considering you don't get a game with it. You didn't get a memory card, you did get a case, and some busted Joy-Cons. Now, the Joy-Cons right now look like they're actually cooperating with me pretty well, but honestly, like I said before, the Joy-Con drift does come and go, which is actually unfortunate, but for $220, I guess it is what it is. I'll probably swap these Joy-Cons out for other Joy-Cons, or mostly play with my Pro controller, since I do have a Pro controller. But yeah, I'm glad I bought this off of eBay, and that's pretty much what you can expect from eBay. Of course, it is going to be hit or miss, but $220 is $220. It's not too bad for this unit because it is in good working condition, minus those two issues. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from MyTech News. Sign